Welcome back, all my 40K fanatics out there. I'm DJ here with Tim's Nation to talk to you guys about the Cherokee Grand Tournament that just finished out and all of what happened, including the top table. No crazy drama here, just good 40K between two exhausted players after 9 rounds of Warhammer. If you guys haven't subscribed to the channel already, please do. Turn on the bell for notifications. Get notified on more videos such as this one. Like, share, comment down below. It helps out for the algorithm. With all that being said, here's a couple things that happened at the Cherokee Grand Tournament from this weekend. One thing that a lot of people commented on, especially in my Necron fan base, was that there was a Necron list that top-8'd with triple Monolith and triple Obelisk. I'll flash the list on the screen. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to catch the name. Maybe someone can comment down below. But congratulations to him on top-8ing with such a obscure list. I saw a couple people comment that the matchups that he faced off in had something to do with his ability to be able to win with this list. And while that may be true, you cannot discredit the player for, first of all, owning 3 Obelisk is number one. I own half an Obelisk. I have a Tezzeret that can go between being an Obelisk and a Tezzeret Vault. But number two, he had to come out and face off against these armies and practice and be prepared to take on a bunch of different lists, different styles, and he came to play. He came with this list ready to go, and he made it happen. Yes, some of his matchups may have been more favorable for his list, but nonetheless, one thing that I constantly coach people when we play at my house and when we test is an example actually with this is a buddy of mine. We were playing a game, and he said to me, if I go first, I automatically win. We rolled the dice and he went first. He's like, well, maybe I should go second. I said, no, you need to practice this. If you win this going first in this mission, in this scenario, you need to practice this. Because when it comes time for a tournament and that moment happens, you want to make sure that you maximize your points and those things happen and they occur the way you want them to. And so we continually practice those. You want to practice worst case scenarios. That's the best practice to get your list ready. But you also want to be ready in those best case scenarios. You don't want to trip all over your feet in a game you should have won and not only end up losing it, or maybe losing critical points that you could use to end up moving up in your faction percentage or something else along the way. So that's a big takeaway from that is while, yes, he may have had a more favorable matchups for his list, but I can't really see how many ultra favorable matchups would be for an Obelisk and a triple Monolith list. Hopefully this week, I'm going to do more of a deep dive into it. I was able to get the roster. I'll flash that up on the screen. And I want to take more time with this and see what was all composed in this, because it seems very unique. And I do have 3 monoliths. Wouldn't mind throwing those on the table and seeing how it goes, especially with something like that. It's very cool, very unique to see. With that being said, the final 4 ended up being all Marines, which is not expected. Are not unexpected. We've been predicting a Marine meta for a very while, and here it is. And then in the finals, it was Stephen Crawley and his Dark Angels versus Brad Chester and the Space Wolves. And that game was a bloodbath. From both opponents. It was Stephen Crawley moved out early to take the objectives that he could hold and hold them close to him, and Brad was able to jump and hit him with Sky Claws and everything from the Space Wolf arsenal. But the Dark Angels defenses, their just general toughness around all those Terminators was just too much for the Space Wolves to be able to push through. Brad, who was definitely under the weather during this game, stayed true to his name and his title and played that game out all the way to the end. But unfortunately, the Space Wolves were not able to push through the Dark Angel defenses. So what can we learn from this game? Well, Dark Angels are really, really flippin' tough. And that's something to think about going into it with your armies. How do you handle Dark Angels? This is definitely an army and a faction that every army should be thinking about when building a tournament list. You're looking at a lot of 3 wound guys, the ability to reduce damage on some Terminator squads, and usually those Terminator squads are going to be sizable. 10-mans are not uncommon when facing into a Dark Angel's army. So these are a couple of things to think about when facing into this list. Hopefully, I have a buddy of mine who's on my team who also plays Dark Angels. Maybe I can get him on here for a game and we can start looking into this and do more of a deep dive into what the Dark Angels can do. But this is definitely something to keep in mind, is how tough these Dark Angels are. They're able to just walk onto an objective and Gandalf you and say, none shall pass. So this is going to be definitely something we're going to see for probably the duration of Arc of Omens. I don't expect to see many changes. We may see some book releases that have things to threaten them, but I think Dark Angels are definitely going to be a top tier competitor throughout the rest of this edition until we hit 10th edition and everything changes up. But for right now, Dark Angels are definitely going to be a big heavy hitter into this. And congratulations to Stephen Crowley on his win at Cherokee, and also good job to Brad Chester for making it all the way and fighting all the way through on that one to the end of the game. Like I said, there was no real drama in this game. Brad wasn't trying to wrestle with people off in the corner after drinking his victory juice. He only does that when he's playing against me. But that's a story for another day. But anyways, Brad, he's always been a great opponent. Stephen was a very courteous opponent throughout the game too as well, constantly checking on Brad, saying, hey, dude, you sure you want to keep rolling with this? And it still was a very good game. Still a very tight game where if the dice had kind of tipped in the opposite direction at any point, Brad might have been able to push through and win it. But man, those Dark Angels are tough. And that's going to be something that we're going to see moving forward again throughout the remainder of this edition. So when you're building your list, look into those 3 damage weapons. Look at ways to get around the reducing the damage, etc., things like that, and just be ready, because the Dark Angels on the tabletop near you are going to be a force to reckon with. Guys, again, thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you all again soon.